So I think we're up to the executive director's report now.
All right, thank you very much. I will highlight a couple of things from the materials, and I'm also going to call on a few other people to help me this morning. So in my executive director's report, I highlighted two important reports that I hope everyone can take a chance to look at. The first is the findings of the Task Force on Race and Washington's Criminal Justice Systems Research Working Group. The other is the Gender and Justice Commission's report on how gender and race affect justice. They both include data and findings that are relevant to our strategic goals to promote equity in the legal system and to promote access to justice and promote public confidence in our legal system. The Gender and Justice report contains specific recommendations, and recommendations are set to follow from the Task Force on Race and the Criminal Justice System later this year. A lot of the recommendations in those reports are aimed at the courts. However, I think there are likely a number of ways that the Bar Association could support the changes that are necessary to achieve our strategic goals and to answer the call of the Supreme Court to undo the ongoing injustice of racism. Governor Angelville is WSBA's representative to the task force, and I thought maybe I'd give her an opportunity to comment on what her experience there, or what role she thinks the Bar Association might play in helping to carry out some of the recommendations that will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Director Nevitt. The Diversity Committee for WSBA is engaged in several endeavors that I think dovetail with some of the recommendations of the task force. One of them is we're participating in a demographic study for the entire membership of WSBA. Additionally, our diversity and inclusion plan, which was formulated almost 10 years ago, is due now for a redraft or a renewal. And so that is going to be a big project where we are looking at inviting stakeholders from everywhere to weigh in on what the plan is. And now that we have these recommendations before us, we have something additional to work with in terms of moving forward.
Thank you. A couple of other things. So this is not in my report, but I did want to let folks know that we are continuing on our work to figure out what's the new normal at the Bar Association in terms of remote work. As you know, we've tried to set up a system to allow employees to work fully remote, except of course for certain things that must be done on site. But for the most part, we're trying to allow the majority of work to be done remotely. As we've worked through that transition, we recently asked employees to indicate to us which work style that they want. Do they want to be completely remote? Do they want to be completely in the office? Do they want some kind of combination? I just thought I'd share some of the statistics from that in case you're interested. So we have approximately 140 employees at the Bar Association. Of those, 76 have indicated that they wish to work entirely remotely, which is, I think, fairly consistent with what we heard from the Pulse survey that we did many months ago when we started this process. We have a small number of folks, 8, who are interested in coming in the office full time. And then the balance of folks want to do some kind of hybrid, or maybe they'll be coming in for seasonal work. We have 3.5 floors at Puget Sound Plaza. It's interesting when you do go into the office, it sort of feels a bit like a ghost town. As you know, one of our goals is to sublet a portion of our space and hopefully consolidate the folks who are there in the office to a smaller footprint, where hopefully we can have the engagement and the pleasure of working together with people in the office. So we're continuing to work on that. And of course, the Budget and Audit Committee has formed a group that's really diving in, as well as Long Range Strategic Planning Council, into what sort of is the next chapter for our physical space. Okay, and then for the last part here, I'm going to kick it over to our Chief Communications Officer, Sarah Nagowski. A bunch of stuff in my report related to the great work that the Communications Department is doing. So I thought Sarah might want to touch on maybe the member survey, the new online format for the magazine. Go for it.
There it goes. As Tara mentioned, two things I want to say that I think are pretty exciting. First and foremost, the member engagement work group has been looking probably for 6 or more months at forming and launching a member engagement survey, a member perception survey. You might remember that we began in 2018 kind of doing an in-house telephone survey of kind of randomly selected members to get their feedback. I think rightly so, the member engagement work group said we would really like to formalize that. We'd really like to make sure members have confidence to give fully transparent answers, not talking to bar staff necessarily, but working with a professional survey company to give that type of feedback. And also the group really wanted to make sure we had a wide reach and we're getting folks to participate. So after formulating questions, after really looking at the logistics, after thinking, I think, really deeply about what type of information is going to be helpful for leaders to make decisions, I'm really proud to say that the member engagement survey launched this week. So that means that group every quarter, we are going to have a randomly selected sample that we are hoping to get a statistically valid response rate from. It's an email survey. The member engagement work group will get those responses back quarterly, and we'll get a more thorough annual report that kind of looks at all of the data and trends with some actionable items. I also want to mention that we've crafted, I think, a pretty good foundation of questions that's really about perception and services and what matters and priorities. But I think there's also opportunity every quarter as the board looks at certain things, initiatives or questions or what's happening, to incorporate some of those questions as well if we want kind of a predictable way, consistent way to get some feedback based on what's happening in real time. So I'm really proud of the group and I'm really looking forward to getting that information back, to start getting some of that data. And then the other item, hopefully you've been kept up to date that we were looking at a new format for the Bar News online platform. The old platform was basically a flip book. So you could go to the site and you would see the icons. You could click on a magazine icon and it would open in a flip book style and go flip, flip, flip. The new site, it's HTML based, it's web based, which basically means if you're used to going to any online publications, Seattle Times, the New York Times, you're not getting a flip book. You're getting discrete articles that are much easier to search, much easier to read, to pull up, and even to add different media to, videos or things such as that. So that launched several weeks ago, and we've got a good couple weeks to make sure that all the kinks were worked out, that everything is working good. The response from members has been very favorable. I think the other good news is we're now looking at really making a concentrated effort, an effort close to immediate past President Kyle Schichetti's heart, to get all those back issues up and searchable and able to be looked at for the entire membership. So I think that's going to be exciting, but take a look. We're proud because we get to feature President Tollefson's cover is kind of that first big feature on the new site. And so it's just a much more modern, usable platform. And the other good news is the old flipbook site was actually costing us a bit of money every year, and we get to recoup that as well. So there you have it.
Thank you. That's it for us. Microphone.
I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. President, whenever it's appropriate.
Governor Higginson.
Thank you. So this is all very interesting information, but I have kind of a procedural question. If the member engagement group is a committee of the Board of Governors, to my understanding. And so I'm wondering how it is that we hear what the member engagement committee is doing and they've just gone off and done it without having a report to the board and the board authorizing that action. I'm just asking, because my understanding was the board committees report back to the board, and then the board authorizes actions to be taken. And this is a pretty big action. And it's the first I've heard of the details of what's going on, and it's an ongoing thing as well, not just a survey, but and there's an expenditure that went along with it. And I also thought we had a policy that before we do things, we're supposed to be looking at the fiscal impact. So I don't know who I'm addressing this question to, but I am wondering about the answers to those questions. Maybe Tara knows, or I don't know who knows.
Governor Peterson here, he's one of the co-chairs. But Executive Director Nevitt.
Yes.
Mr.
well, I think
President,
you'll
we
be-
couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, where's the hand? Oh,
He said he couldn't hear you.
my mic is on. You can't hear me?
I'm gonna go ahead
Now
and
I
let,
can, now I can hear you now. Thank you.
thank you. I'm gonna let Chief Communication Officer Nagowski field that one, and then also if Governor Peterson wants to add anything as well.
Well, and I'll look over at Governor Peterson as well, but this came back, I'm looking at Bryn for a mind meld, but early in spring, this did come back to the Board of Governors, and it was included in the reforecast. And so I know that it went through all the channels, and we kept it updated at that point. So I think it was probably around February or March, and I could look back in all the materials to see how we brought it forward, but the philosophy, the budget request, it all came forward back to this Board of Governors at that time.
Any other questions?
Could I just ask a follow-up then? So
Governor Higginson.
am I understanding then that this was in some kind of a reforecast report, and it was just some kind of a notation in there, and because we approved the reforecast report, then we were deemed to have approved the member engagement work group going forward with the survey and the ongoing survey work?
What's my recollection that it was much more affirmative than that. And so I don't want to speak off the cuff because I don't have the exact dates and the exact materials before me, but I do remember writing for updates, bringing it forward and mentioning it in budget and audit affirmatively. So I know that, again, I don't want to speak off the cuff, so I can definitely find and gather that information with you, Governor Peterson.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I guess
Governor,
I'm-
can I recognize Governor Peterson?
yeah, I believe Chief Nagowski's recollection is correct. It did come before the Board of Governors, but it's been it's been almost a year ago now, so I can't, if you're gonna ask me which meeting it was or when it happened, I'm not gonna be able to respond in any way that's gonna satisfy your query. And I have been giving reports about this at every meeting. And of course, governors are always free to have input or see what we're doing at any time. There's no, the idea here is not to hide the ball, but on the flip side, the idea is to get something done. It seems like what we're famous for here is not getting stuff done. So we're trying to get something done, but obviously Governor Higginson, I mean, I'd be happy to, share, whatever you would want me to share with you. You're obviously happy to attend all of our meetings, and we would welcome your input and welcome the input of all the other governors. And I'm sure that Chief Nagowski would be more than happy to send you the first round of questions, but what I can assure you is we spent as governors, governors as part of this, membership group, we spent a whole year carefully working on, the first round of questions. And frankly, I think they're really good questions. I think they're well thought out questions. And I'm actually very excited about them going out and being kind of the baseline questions for what we're doing. And I think what you have to remember here too is, this survey is a quarterly survey. So we're always welcoming additional questions from each quarter from all the governors because, the idea with the membership committee, not just with the survey, but in general, is things that we're dealing with as governors. How do we get real feedback from, our members so we can make better decisions? And the wonderful thing about this whole survey is it's scientifically done by a company that is an expert in doing surveys. It's randomly, the people are going to be randomly selected. We're going to have a margin of error of 5%. I mean, this is going to be real feedback, not the, a lot of times we get feedback from members and frankly, we hear from one extreme on one side or one extreme on the other side. And frankly, it's not sometimes overly helpful because you don't know what the members, right, as a whole want. So I'm very excited about this. And obviously, I'm happy to answer any other questions you have.
Any other questions about the executive director's report, which is what this is all about? Anybody got either their real hand up or their electronic hand up? I don't believe so.